Beautiful song about a beautiful event that took place. I want to begin today to preach 2 or 3 Christmas songs, sermons. I want to preach today the 7 days of Christmas. I know the song has 12. I can't hold out to do 12. Your bottoms wouldn't endure 12. So I'll do 7. And some of you will get fidgety over the 7. But if you turn your Bible over to Galatians chapter 4, hold your thumb there and find Genesis chapter 1. The trick to understanding God is found in an obscure verse of Scripture in the book of Hebrews. You don't have to turn there. Where it says that Jesus Christ, who is God, is the same yesterday, today, forevermore. Think about what that means. His mood never changes. His method never changes. Justice never changes. Promise never changes. Process never changes. Everything about Jesus. So if you can begin to understand how Jesus, the same yesterday, today, and forevermore, if you can begin to conceive in your mind how he operates, then you can begin to understand this thing we call Christmas. In Galatians chapter 4, verse number 4, the Bible said, and in the fullness of time, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman under the law. I want to focus on just part of that verse. In the fullness of time. What does that mean? What made that moment, that night, in that city of Jerusalem, the night? Or the night before, just as good. Or the year before, or the year after. But God said, it's now. This is the fullness of time. Turn over to Genesis chapter 1. Let's see if we can begin to understand how God operates being the same. The Bible said in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now this morning, I want you to know that just as surely as God created this earth that you live on, those trees that grow out there, as surely as he invented, created, made the air that you breathe, God made you. That's his process. God makes things. That could just as easily say, in the beginning of your life, God created you. Both bad and good. I've kissed several babies this morning, and to tell me there's no good in babies is to be fighting words. There's heaven and earth in every child that's ever born. The older they get, the less heaven you see. At about 15, you'll be convinced there ain't no heaven. Just earth. But that's not really how you understand God. Notice what the second verse of Genesis 2 said. In the fullness of time, God sent forth His Son. Well, in the fullness of time, the Bible said, and God looked upon the earth and saw that the earth was dark, that it was void, that it was empty, that there was no life in it. God looked and God saw, and notice this morning that if God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore, then you and I must get to a point to where we look as God looks and realize that our lives are dark, they're empty, they're void. Let me tell you a cruel trick about Christmas. They have so commercialized Christmas now, and they've got it so exciting for little kids that during Christmas it's difficult for anybody to see that their life is dark and dull, void, and empty. You see the excitement that's been placed inside of Christmas, and I'm all for that. The more glitter and glint, the better. But make no mistake that the night that Jesus was born, it didn't look like this. There were not poinsettias growing and beautiful portraits hanging and a baby grand piano. There wasn't a lovely Christmas tree. The Bible tells us that there was nothing but a stable, and there was a cattle trough, and He was laid in it. The world was a dark, empty, void. There's no life in the world. There was religion. There'd never been more religion than there was when Jesus was born. There was religion. You may not believe this, but divorce was at an all-time high at that period in history. Taxes. You can't believe how taxes were going. Government corruption, it was everywhere. There was an elite class of people who looked down on the rest of the people. There was darkness. There was emptiness. There was a void. So the beginning of the fullness of time begins when I'm able to see that in the world in which I live, there is darkness. There's an absence of hope. Notice the next thing, and it's what must happen in this service right now, or this message will be useless. And the Spirit of God began to move. Literally, the Bible teaches that as God looked down upon the darkness and the evil and the emptiness of the whole earth, the Spirit of God is so large that the Spirit of God began to hover. As a mother hen, the Spirit of God began to just enclose itself to envelop the earth. And the Spirit of God began to move. You see the movement of the Spirit when you look at this 16-year-old girl who was a virgin. And the Bible said, this God that hovered around the earth it hovered around her womb, and it began to move. It began to move. When the Spirit of God begins to move, then life is going to begin to grow. Now that's what happened in the beginning. God never changes His process. God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. We notice that when God began to move upon the face of the deep that's called the earth, the Bible said that life began to flourish. First in a very small way. And over a period of time, life began to flourish in a very big way. That's what happens when the Spirit of God moves. When the Spirit of God moves over the womb of Mary in this small womb, life began to grow. I've looked this week at some, I don't know what they're called. They're pictures of babies before they're babies. It's the weirdest thing I ever saw. The thing that really amazes me about these pictures is, and I want to admit this, I don't really see anything but black and white words. But when you talk to the mother, she says, oh, right there is his head. Isn't it amazing that God, like a mother, can see the details of life before it is? We studied about the life of Rahab, and she was a harlot. If you had looked at her, you would have said she has no value to contribute to the kingdom of God. Her contribution is carnal. Her contribution is evil, but yet God, as though He were looking at one of those sonograms, God was able to see. And His Spirit began to move upon the heart of Rahab. See, the other thing that's neat. When the Spirit of God really begins to move on you, it moves on the part of you that needs to become alive. The whole earth needed to be alive. It was dark, dull, and cold. Only the womb of Mary needed to come alive. The rest of her was already alive. If you read about Mary, she was one of the happiest teenagers you ever met. She loved the Lord. The Bible talks about songs that she made up in songs that she quoted. But there needed to be life. So the Spirit of God began to move. In Rahab, God needed to move from the spirit of her heart. His Spirit began to hover around the area of the heart. I suspect this morning that God needs to hover around your heart. Maybe it's your head. Maybe you've got what I call stinking thinking, and maybe you've heard so much religious mumbo-jumbo that where God needs to move His Spirit is in how you think. Well, when God begins to move on you, that's the first day. I don't know how long it'll take. I know idiots who want to say it took 24 hours. And God said the evening and the morning were the first day. I don't know how long that was. But I do want you to notice that as the Spirit of God begins to move, notice in Genesis, the very first thing that happens on day 2. God's process never changes. The Bible said, and God separated the light from the dark. When God's Spirit begins to move, the first thing that will happen to you is you will begin to know what it is that's dark, and what it is that's evil, and what it is that's wrong. You will be able to separate in your mind of those habits, of those thoughts, of those words, of those deeds, of those ideologies, those ideas about Christianity. You'll be able to separate them from that which is light. And that which is light, it appeared in Bethlehem almost 2,000 years ago, and it was perfection of light. But God, when His Spirit begins to move, whether it be on an earthly stage or whether it be on a mother's womb, or whether it be in the heart or mind of a harlot or the mind of a person sitting here. At the end of that first day, that first step, you will immediately begin to see what's dark. What you don't want the light shined on. We've all got those things in our life. I don't want the light shining over here. You'll also be able to see what the light is. What's God name? What's light? As I look where the light is shining, the Bible begins to make so much more sense to me. I shine a light over here in the corner, and I see a man, one man, just an old man. He's 90 years old, and he's just almost too old to be good for anything. But the Spirit of God began to move on him. And the Bible said that he saw the light. He saw the light, and he believed the promise. God said, "You shall bring forth a son." His name happened to be Abraham. But you can put your name in there if you want to really enjoy Christmas. Like Abraham, there's got to be that moment when God shines the light on your life, and when in your heart and in your mind you begin to see that God has a promise for you. God is promising that in you there can be the life, the eternal life, the promise of God. Bad news. This old man, who was beyond the point, the Bible said, of being able to have seed that would bring forth a child, has got an 80-year-old wife who's never had a child and her womb is dead. He's got to go be a witness to her. He's got to go say, "Sarah, we're going to have a baby." We don't have any 80-year-old women here that will admit it. But I could go lay my hands on 10, 12 women and say, "You're going to have a baby." And they'd do exactly what Sarah did. They'd laugh. Those that didn't laugh would slap me. Some would get up and walk out and go, "You're crazy." But Christmas, it's all about that day when you realize that no matter what your condition is, no matter how old you are, no matter how life has passed you by, no matter how unsuccessful in your own attempt to make a baby or to make a life or to make a home or to make a career or to make anything, Christmas is that day when you realize the emptiness of your life for not having a child or not having a home or not having a church or not having a way out of this life. That day when you see the emptiness and the darkness and the voidness and you begin to shine the light on the promise of God and say, it could happen. It will happen. That'll be the beginning of the third day of Christmas. It'll be hard because when you folks, nobody loves these wonderful poinsettias. I thank the person that donated them. Gave them to the church. It'll be hard. I look at this tree and I see the glitter and I see all the light. But it's all artificial. It's beautiful, but it's artificial. Light. There's no real light there. We've turned Christmas into a distraction from the Spirit of God moving and us being able to see the difference in the emptiness and the darkness and the light. But when we finally begin to accept that same promise that Abraham did, God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. When we begin to accept that exact same promise that this man and woman accepted, and it's the beginning of the third day. One of the things you'll need to get by if you're ever going to get to the seventh day of Christmas, to the completeness of Christmas, you'll have to go through it. Even after the Spirit of God has moved upon you, even after the light has shined in your life of dark places, even after you have believed in a promise that just nothing but faith could deliver, you'll have to go through this period of time where you are actually looking around and thinking that I can live the way God would want me to live. You'll go through that. God never changes the process. Everybody, beginning with the Jews and everybody's sins, goes through that. Well, I can live godly. I'm going to attempt to do my best to live godly. That's really the first thing Satan used to get us off track. Because Paul made it crystal clear, due to the weakness of your flesh, the law, living good, is impossible. Well, preacher, I still think I ought to do the best I can. Your best unto God is a filthy rag. But you'll have to go through that. You notice in the creation that even though God had pointed out what was light and what was dark, we didn't get a sun and the moon till the fourth day. The fourth day is when you begin to realize there's darkness in my life that I can't seem to control. Sometimes I say things and I don't even know why I say them. It's carnal nature. Sometimes I get ideas in my head that somebody can take the Bible and show me, well, it's just not that way in the Bible. Man, it's hard for me to let go of it because I held on to it so long. Yeah. I understand. We all go through that. I remember the first 2 years that I started preaching. I got saved at 9, and at 9 years old, you're not smart enough to know you ought to try to live better. You're just happy you got saved. And I know that when I was a teenager, I certainly didn't live godly life. And then I knew that moment when I was going to start preaching and surrender, I'm out. I'll never say, I'll never do, I'll never do. I sat and cried for 2 years in my house. First 2 years I was in the ministry. I'm not sure why I was crying. Whether it was because I wasn't having a good time or whether I was trying to live. Well, glad that I wasn't. But that all happens to all of us. Here's the worst part of that, and I know I'm camping here a minute, but it's so important. We got people in this audience. They've never got by that fourth day when somebody they admired and thought was Christian disappointed them. They saw the darkness, the void in somebody else's life where they thought there was light. They just shut God down. It's hard for them this morning to even focus on what I'm saying because they've shut the Spirit down. They don't want the Spirit of God to move. When the Spirit of God moves upon you, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to have to let go of all of that religious nonsense that you have packed inside of your life because it's dark and it's void and it's empty. It's stuff. But two, when the Spirit of God begins to move on you, you're going to get hurt a little. You're going to feel a little pain. Ask any of these mothers that have had babies that when the Spirit of God moved and that life grew and they had that child, find me a mother that said, oh, what a pain, I laughed the whole time. No, as new life comes forth out of you, as you become a new creature, as you become rededicated, you're going to be in some pain. That's the fifth day. The fifth day of Christmas, you wake up looking for somebody that is living at some church or some religion or some denomination. You're looking for, and frankly, it's why so many of these cults have caught on. People come out of day 4, having been so badly hurt by the traditional way, they want to go a non-traditional way, and they'll become a Mormon or they'll become a Jehovah's Witness, or they'll become one of these other lame brain ideas. Preacher, you called? Yeah, lame brain. They're looking for a king, an earthly king. They're looking for something that can rule their life. It's part of our nature. We believe that life without a leader is chaos. So we all got to have one. We got to have a leader. The Jews went through that. And king after king after king, they were just human beings. Human beings make mistakes. Sooner or later, you'll have a pastor that you'll really love, and if you let him stay long enough, and I'm really blessed. I've lived long enough, and you've let me stay long enough. Most of you know my faults. Some of you even tell me about them. I've even received letters about my faults. And I thank you for that. I thank you for that. But, like Paul, I'm chief among sinners. And you need to really get by that. You need to get through that. You're never really going to get to the seventh day of Christmas as long as you're hung up on believing that Sun Myung Moon or the great leader of North Korea or some president in the United States or some preacher in some pulpit is the place where all of the light of God has been concentrated. Because it's not. When that happens, when you finally quit looking and finally decide that it doesn't exist, you go into the sixth day of Christmas, and that's where many of you are right now. You just try to enjoy life as best you can. You just try to get all of the juice out of the chewing gum that you're chewing. At the moment that you can, you'll get hobbies, and you'll get boy toys and girl toys, and you'll take great vacations. And you'll build new houses, buy new cars, and you're really just trying to get as much pleasure out of life as you can. Day 6 is all about man. I went through that phase. That's the phase when you try to stack up enough $100 bills to get you through. You can't stack up enough. 5 doctors in a week along with you. I'll have a copay. Cars have payments. Houses have line bills. Repair bills. Many of us never get through the 6th day of Christmas. We just fill those days up at 6th day with as many poinsettias and as many Christmas trees and as many Christmas programs and church visits. And some of our 6 days to Christmas we get really generous to the Lord, giving more of our time and talent than we ever have before. But when the fullness of time is gone, when you finally have lived through the nonsense of being dead and being empty and being void and not having any real life, only having all of these pretend things in your life, and the Spirit of God begins to move, and as the Spirit of God begins to move, you begin to search, and you look for it in all the wrong places. One day, the light will shine. The light will shine. God's light will shine on the city of Bethlehem. And if you follow that light, as these wise men did, you will find the 7th day of Christmas. You'll find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes. The fullness of time is when a human being is able to see that it's not a what, it's not a when, it's not a when, it's a who. Fullness of time is when he who is Jesus, because the Spirit of God has hovered, becomes the most important thing in your life. When Jesus is born into your life, life actually begins. It would be sad if we were still waiting on Caleb to have Ava Grace. She was miserable the last night she was here. I predicted on Sunday 2 or 3 weeks ago she won't be here Wednesday night, but she'll have a baby. I'm psychic. No, I got sense enough to look at the signs. Do you? Wouldn't it be a terrible thing? I just held Tyler a few minutes ago. I don't know how old Tyler is, good boy, he's a big boy. Poor old Paul would be carrying Holly if Tyler hadn't got here yet. Josh and Emily, they've got a baby coming. I can't wait for it to get here in June. When is June? It'll come on time. When the fullness of time has come, you need to give up that dark place in your life. That dark place that you don't understand. You may enjoy it, but you don't understand it. When the fullness of time has come, you need to give up all those roads that you've been trying to figure out that make you a good person. None of them do. Give them up. Well, you don't want me to be a good person. Trust me. If Jesus Christ really gets born into your life and you let him grow, you let him come out, you let him walk with you, you let him be a part of your life, trust me, you'll live good enough. When the fullness of time has come, you'll quit searching through stuff and people, religious churches, and you'll just start seeking the face of Jesus. When the fullness of time has come, Jesus will be born in your life. The Spirit will move. Don't you think it's time in your life? Don't you think it's time you arrive at day 7, the day of completeness, when your life ought to be complete? Do you notice what God did when day 7 came in his life? There in Genesis, he never changed. And God looked and saw that it was good. And God rested. Aren't you due for some rest? From your struggles was, what's it all about? Were your struggles of, why do people live the way they live? Why? Isn't it time you rested? Let the Spirit of God move this morning. Some of you have been saved, but you've never really let Jesus grow up. Let him grow up and become not a babe in a manger, but a Savior on a cross. Let him grow up. Let him be a resurrected God that is walking with you every step of the way, that's encouraging you to come to the altar and pray, that's encouraging you to join the church, be baptized, encouraging you to have a family of God, encouraging you to find like-minded people and worship with them. Isn't it time? Those things are so restful for me, aren't they, you? Heads bowed, eyes closed. They're coming to the